What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 predictions. The Kentucky Wildcats are up next. Let's take a look at some of the other predictions for Kentucky. The FPI has them at 7.4 and 4.9, so about a 10% chance of winning the SEC East. Athlon's got them at 8 and 4, a little bit higher, and the over/under is at 6.5. So 6.5, that number, you feel like this team is at least going to get to 7 wins. You look at the consistency of this program under Mark Stoops, and it's hard to imagine them dropping below 7 and 5, especially with a pretty easy non-conference schedule. Now they do play Louisville. You lose that game, then that's probably a way you could possibly see them getting to 6 and 6. But they have owned that series the last few years. So my thoughts on Kentucky: Devin Leary, quarterback transfer from NC State. Do I think he's a superstar? No, but he's a very good option. I think he's going to fill in very nicely for them, and bring back Liam Cohen. Cohen is huge for them as the offensive coordinator. They were really good with him there before. Now you look at Ray Davis, transfer running back from Vanderbilt, and I think this is probably the best trio of wide receivers that Kentucky has had in a long time, since I can remember. And I think it's a trio of wide receivers that could really match up with almost anyone in the SEC. They've got 3 really good guys there at wide receiver. The offensive line looks to be pretty strong. Defensively, there's some bright spots, some question marks, but overall they should be pretty solid. And under Mark Stoops, his defense has been pretty good most of the time. So I think it's a good Kentucky team. Do I think they're going to knock off Georgia and win the SEC East? No. But I do think they're probably in the top half of the SEC this year. So let's get to the predictions. They start off with 3 non-conference games: Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron. Just don't really see them struggling in any of these games. And it really works out well for them with a new quarterback, some new faces on the roster, some transfers. You get 3 games to kind of get things figured out. And again, that could really help them out. They don't have a really tough test there in the beginning of the season. So 3 games that should be wins. And then after that, even, you get Vanderbilt. So you get your first road game, and you get to play Vanderbilt. So this is a really favorable schedule for Kentucky, at least in the first part. And again, I think they beat Vanderbilt. I just think they're the better team, even on the road. That shouldn't be too much of a challenge. So I think 4 pretty easy wins. They'll get their first test against Florida on September the 30th, but they get to play this game back at home. Florida, Kentucky should be a good matchup here. Both teams going to want to run the football, and I just talked about Kentucky's passing their receivers a second ago. I think Kentucky will be a more balanced offense this year than Florida. And I look at the defenses, I think that probably goes in favor of Kentucky. I think Kentucky just is the better team, and they're playing at home, so it's hard to see them losing this game. I think they'll beat Florida. Then they'll get Georgia on October the 7th on the road in Athens. And, I talked about this before. This is going to be a huge matchup because both teams probably come into this game undefeated. I don't know where Kentucky will be ranked because they wouldn't really have been tested at this point. But I do think both teams probably are undefeated. Could be the SEC, the game of the week in the SEC, with the game being on CBS. Maybe game day goes there. I can't remember the other games for this day. But it's going to be a big-time game. And I think Kentucky is going to lose. I don't think the game will be all that close. I'm sorry, Kentucky fans. Georgia's just going to be much better. Plus, they're playing at home. It's a game that might get hyped up, and that's just what Kirby Smart wants. He wants his players to think that people are talking about Kentucky possibly going in there and pulling off an upset or whatever. So Georgia should be focused. They should be locked in. A much better team. I think they win this game. Next week on October the 14th at home, you get Missouri. Pretty even matchup. I think Missouri, I've talked about it, I think they're being underrated just a little bit. Missouri probably going to have a better defense than Kentucky this year. But offensively, that's definitely going to go in favor of Kentucky. And the balance that they're going to have, I'm telling you, this is going to be a really good offense. I think they are able to score enough points against this Missouri defense. They're playing at home. Their defense, I'm sure, will play well. I think they beat Missouri. Then you get Kentucky on the 28th after a bye week. Got embarrassed by Tennessee last year. And then this is a revenge game. You got that bye week, like I said. You would think Kentucky is going to be really, really focused on this game, and they will be ready to roll. And I think they play Tennessee much tougher this time, but I still just don't think it's enough. I think this Tennessee offense It's gonna be tough to stop, and I don't think Kentucky has, especially in the secondary, the players that are gonna be able to stop this Kentucky passing attack and this offense overall. So I just think Tennessee outscores Kentucky, probably a shootout, and like I said, much closer than last year's game, but still the win goes to Tennessee. And then you get Mississippi State in a really tough spot. So right after Tennessee, right before Alabama, and you have to go on the road and you have to deal with those cowbells. This is going to be a tough spot to have this game. I don't know that Kentucky can handle that. I don't think they survive. Mississippi State's going to be a veteran team, a good team. If they were playing on a neutral field, I would take Kentucky. I think they're probably the better team here, but Mississippi State's still going to be a good team, and they're going to be playing at home. And like I said, right in between Tennessee and Alabama, it's a tough spot. I think Kentucky, I should say, loses this game. And then you get Alabama on the 11th at home. It's Alabama, but they do get the game at home. I think they'll be ready for this game. They'll put up a pretty good fight. The passing attack for Kentucky might cause the Alabama defense a little bit of trouble. I don't really see them running on Alabama. And then the question will be, can they slow down Alabama and their rushing attack? Because I think they're going to really be good at running the football this year. I think they'll play tough. I don't think they're going to get blown out, but Alabama's they're still Alabama, and I do think the Crimson Tide will win this game. And then you get, now if Kentucky's going to pull off a big win, though, you look at Tennessee and Alabama both at home. Perhaps they pull off a shocker and pull off an upset in one of those two games. Georgia, I just don't see happening on the road, but Tennessee or Alabama, maybe Kentucky can get a big win, get a big upset there. They get South Carolina the next week on the road. Should be a pretty good passing attack for South Carolina. I expect a shootout, a lot of points in this game. I think Kentucky has the better defense. I think Kentucky has the better offensive line. It's going to be tough because of the game being on the road, but I do think Kentucky is good enough. I think they're going to get it done. I think they go on the road and they beat South Carolina in what should be a great game, really close game, and then they close things out on the road at Louisville. You look back at this series the last 4 years, every game has gone to Kentucky, and the games really haven't been all that close. Louisville going to be, I think, a good team, though. I like what they added in the transfer portal. I think this will be a closer game than it's been the last few years. And it's at Louisville, so that does give them a shot to get this win for sure. So I think this is a close one. But until I see Louisville win this game, I still think Kentucky gets it done. I think it's close, comes down to the fourth quarter, but the Wildcats beat their rivals again, and they get to 8-4. So that's my prediction for this team. I feel pretty good about this. I mean, the first 5 games, I feel pretty confident. I think they beat Missouri at home. The losses I have here, I feel pretty confident that they're going to lose those games. I think if I'm off, then it's probably South Carolina or Louisville. They lose one of those and they go 7-5. So I think this team is 7-5 or 8-4. It's just hard for me to see them doing much better than 8-4. They would have to pull off a big upset over Tennessee or Alabama, or win that game on the road at Mississippi State. I just don't see them doing that. So I'm at 8-4. That's my prediction. What is your prediction for Kentucky? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.